Hey everyone, welcome to the Healing Narcissistic Trauma Conference. I'm Susan Ball, your host for the event, and I'm here today with the lovely Suzette Vearnon. And she is, I know, and she has the most fantastic story about narcissism that is going to really, I don't know, enlighten, empower, encourage. It's just an amazing story. Hi, Suzette. Welcome to the conference. So happy to have you here.
Oh, Susan, I am delighted to be here with you. Absolutely delighted. Thank you so much for the invitation and the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Yes, and you're a relationship coach. That's your niche. But
Yeah,
it's really important, and the title of our talk today is You Are Enough. And that
yes,
is an underlying theme to why we get caught up in narcissistic abuse, why we get caught up in these long-term unhealthy relationships, because we don't feel we are enough.
exactly. That is so true. And it comes up in so many subtle ways. Because what we were talking about before we rolled the camera was about how a lot of women, a lot of us women have past a certain age. You know, we are high achieving. We are the go-to for our family, our friends. We pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps. We are purpose driven. We know what we're here for. We have dreams we're going after. But for a lot of women, sit with them long enough and there's a relationship issue. There's some type of relationship struggle, question, or whatever. And so I have found a real calling in being able to share not just insights with these women, but being the poster child of hope. Because this is my third marriage. And I think I got it right this time, Susan. I think I got it right.
I hear you. I think I got it right this time too. After
Yeah.
4 failed attempts.
Wow. I thought I was doing bad with two.
No, I'm almost up there with Elizabeth Taylor, except
Okay. Hey, at least we aim high, don't we?
yeah. So your experience is fascinating, and you are actually married to a gay narcissist.
Yes. Yes, I
Completely
was. I'm telling you,
mind-blowing.
it is mind blowing because we were talking about it. It was like, you know what, that was mind blowing. And this, I didn't share this with you, and I know your viewers are going to be like, okay, this girl, really? I married him twice. I married him twice. Talk
Wow.
about not knowing you're enough.
Was that
Yeah.
because of the love bombing, the trauma bond, like
Um, you know what? I think the reason why it happened was, first of all, I grew up in a very rigid environment where I think I was very ignorant about life. I had been sheltered, I had been protected. It was a very religious kind of situation. And so there were a lot of things about men I did not know. I did not know. And all I know is I had a hunger inside. I wanted attention. I wanted somebody to see me. And even though I had heard little things about him, he paid attention. He was easy to talk to. And not to label all gay men, but one of the things that a lot of reasons why gay men are a lot of women's best friends is because they're delightful, they're personable, they're funny, and all that. And so I got sucked into that. And when he wanted to marry me, I was almost 30 years old. And so my sisters had married, some of my friends had married, and it was just a convergence of a lot of things. I wanted someone to see me for me, to love me for me. I was very vulnerable. I didn't realize how vulnerable I was. He was paying attention. He asked. So in my mind, when a man asks, that means he sees something valuable in you and wants to spend the rest of his life with you. And then from the same kind of background, religious background, I was taught about, God can heal and deliver anybody. So even if this man had been in gay relationships in the past, if he told me that the Lord delivered him and saved him, and that he was attracted to me and wanted to have a relationship with me, it made me feel like, oh girl, you got it going on, because even this man that was once gay wants to marry you. What about you? And so I married him. Then we had a son. And I think the part that led to the second marriage was after we divorced and everything, I did not, first of all, I didn't get therapy. Secondly, I did not allow myself to date. So I was still in a bubble. And then something else traumatic happened in my life. He's coming to visit, picking up our son. We're talking because he knows how to plug in, he knows how. And he said something to me that really made my heart open. He said, you know what, Suzette? He said, I promised God that if he gave me a second chance with you, I wouldn't blow it this time. You were the best thing that happened to me, and I'm not going to blow it this time. And so here we go. And I'm thinking, okay, my son misses his father. If there's an opportunity, a chance that we can bring this back together and have a family and give our son what he needs, then I should take it. And so that is what led to the second time.
Wow, that is
Yeah.
just an incredible story, because when you said he knew how to plug into,
Yes.
that
Yeah.
is, all the women and men who are listening right now can relate to that.
Yes, he knew. He knew exactly how to come at me.
Yeah.
He knew how to and he was kind and he was caring. And there were some things the second time around that were different. It's almost like he had mellowed some. He'd come into his own. He had a dream. He had a goal. He wasn't dependent on me because I was the major breadwinner the first time around. But he had a dream. He had a goal. He had done some things on his own. And he was spending time with our son in a way that he hadn't before. So I was seeing him with our son, and our son was so happy. How children can go, Daddy, Mommy, and they hold your hand and they swing. You know how kids do that thing. And so I really, I think because I had not put myself in a place to learn differently, because we think it's situational. We think, well, he was the problem, it wasn't really us, it was him. But I had to realize, wait a minute, what was it about me that was broken? That part I didn't get fixed. I was into survival mode. Now I'm a single parent, and that can be stressful all of its own. I didn't expect to be a single parent. So I was in survival mode. And here he comes again. Now he's Prince Charming. He's helping with the bills. He's helping with different things. He's kissing me and touching me in a way that he didn't the first time around. So I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe him and God had a powwow and he really did get cured. Maybe he really did get delivered, because I didn't understand about the whole emotional part of a gay man. I didn't know about orientation. I just thought, well, he just like having sex with men. Well, he'll have sex with a woman. I didn't understand at that time. And in the bubble that I was in, nobody understood it. No one talked about it. I mean,
No.
nobody did that. I mean, nobody. So I was still in that bubble. I was still in the bubble, and I didn't get outside the bubble. But I tell you this, when we divorced the second time, a girl kicked her foot through the bubble, because I was like, you know what? Because my prayer was, God, if you get me out this time, I will not come back in. And I knew that in order for me to make good on that, I had to do something I had not done. I had to get therapy, and I had to find out about men. I didn't know about men. I was attracted to them. My daddy was one, but I didn't know about men. I didn't understand the psychology of them, the culture of them. I didn't know how they were socialized. I didn't understand how they think. how we can speak the same language but mean two different things. I did not know. And I knew that in order for me not to make this mistake a third time, maybe different man, different clothes, but the same issue, same emotionally unavailable man, I'd have to do some work. I'd have to do some work. And so that's what I began to do. Even before we actually separated and divorced, I started the process of starting to really find out more. I started talking to men who I felt were healthy. I asked family members, you can kind of trust family members because they're not trying to get you to date them, or they're not trying to get you to pay their bills. So you can kind of trust the things they tell you. And so I started talking to my family members about men and tell me the truth. Tell me about that while getting therapy. And then I started dating, and I would date somebody and call my cousin. He was my go-to for all things men. And so something would happen. I'd talk to my cousin. And there were times, especially if I really liked the man or really started developing feelings or emotional attachment, I'd be like, no, you don't understand. Our situation is unique. It's different. I mean, we're just this. But I'm telling you, 99% of the time, my cousin was spot on. So it took a while, but I started saying, okay, he's right. And I started feeling my capacity open to start really hearing about men without judgment and letting a man teach me about men. So it took a lot to get to my now happy marriage. It took a whole lot of internal work and educating myself.
It's the internal work of teaching yourself that you are enough, that teaching yourself, the red flags of narcissism. When you looked back at your relationship with the fellow who you married twice, when did it come to your realization that he was also a narcissist? The gay thing aside.
Right. I didn't really think of it that way until, two things happened. One thing was I went back to school to get another degree, and it was an associate's degree. I had originally gotten a bachelor's, but I went back to school when I got laid off of a job, and I was trying to find something to make me relevant. That's the thing, what happens when you get older, you want to know, how am I relevant now? And so I ended up enrolling in the Human Services Technology degree program. And one of the types of people we studied was a narcissistic personality, because my main specialization was substance abuse counseling. And in substance abuse counseling, you deal with a lot of narcissistic personalities. And so we did a study about that. And then too, one of my friends, or a person who is a dear friend of mine now, at the time she was a lifeline, but Bonnie Kay, who is known for her work in straight wife, gay husband, that whole arena. Somehow or another, I stumbled upon her when I was Googling for help. And I became a part of her tribe. And I would ask her questions. I would read her newsletters. And she wrote a book that said, Gay Husbands Say the Darndest Things, where she really zeroes in on the narcissistic behavior that a lot of them have. And so between those two, I started becoming more and more clear about what some of those narcissistic behaviors were. Things like, him never apologizing, but only clarifying.
I like the way you say that.
It's like, it's not an apology. Or even if he says, I'm sorry, there's always a but, because his goal is to clarify why he wants you to do what he wants you to do. It's not to apologize. So that was one of the things. I'm like, okay, he doesn't apologize. He only clarifies. Because he wants me to understand why my thinking in terms of myself, as opposed to him, cannot be right.
No, it cannot be right.
It cannot be right. What's wrong with you? The world does revolve around me, really. It really does. So that was one of those traits that kind of reconciling what I was taught to looking back at what I had come out of, you know, starting putting those pieces together of, because all gay people are not narcissistic, but it just so happened in my situation, my God, you pull up the DSM-4 and start reading and you say, oh my God, that's him. Oh my God, that's him. Oh my God, that's him. So
I did
yeah.
that. My fourth relationship, he almost killed me. And
Oh,
where I
wow.
live in Canada, you have to go, if it's domestic violence, physical violence, it's mandatory that you go to group counseling. And the very first thing they gave me was a checklist
Wow.
of things. And it had like 20 things. And I checked them off. And this is how clueless I was. I checked off like 18. And I said to her, I got 18. Is that good? He said, no.
Oh,
I was
that is
looking at it
sad.
like a test in high school. You know, I got 18. Like,
Oh
yeah. And it was like, wow. I went home and I thought, wow, what does that mean for my
no.
understanding of love and relationships and men and all of that?
Mm-hmm.
I did not, it took a lot of time after that for all of this healing to happen. But as childhood, how I was raised, I had abandonment trauma. I didn't understand relationships. I
Didn't.
had no what's the word, reference for a healthy relationship. My mom and dad fought like a cat and a dog.
Oh my God, my whole concept of love was distorted. It was an amalgamation of soap operas, watching Bob and Lisa, you know, on As the World Turns and The Guiding Light, and Disney. So that's what really formed for me relationships, because I thought that if I can get a Prince Charming that treats me like Bob does with Lisa, and saves me like the Disney character the Prince does, then that will fix things for me. That will cure whatever is broken, the loneliness, the middle child syndrome of feeling like, you know, everybody is more important than you are. That all those things, the anxiety that I understand now was as a result of being molested. It took a while, but you start realizing, okay, I thought a man was going to fix that. So it was not as important for me to figure out if he was a good fit as it was, oh, he wants to marry me. Then that's the thing. That's what Prince Charming does. He gets on one knee and asks you to marry him. So by virtue of him asking me to marry him, I'm going to say yes. Vetting him was not even part of my equation. I didn't even think about, well, how is he when he's angry with you? How do you feel with him? Do you feel protected? Do you feel honored? Do you feel respected? Those things didn't even enter my mind.
No,
It was
mine either. I can relate to that because mine was, oh my God, he likes me.
yes.
Me.
You know, this guy
I,
till death us do part. I mean, that's a long time. So I'm thinking,
well, with somebody abusive, that's a long time. But it's amazing when you listen to the stories, despite the fact of where you lived or what ethnicity you have or what religion you followed or whatever, the pattern is there.
there.
There's a loneliness, there's an abandonment as a child,
Mhm.
and we humans seek connection, we seek love. And
Yes,
even if it's unhealthy and twisted and scary and all of that kind of stuff, we will scrape the bottom of the barrel just to feel that
just to feel
there's
it.
something.
Yes, yes, just to feel there's something. And the thing that's interesting about this was after we got married, something inside of me clicked. And I had not been taught, I know now it was my intuition, but I had never been taught to regard it. And I can remember a sinking feeling after both times. And the second time, it was so very interesting. It was during the time where the best man is supposed to toast the bride and the groom. And the best man was sequestered off signing the marriage license, but we didn't know where he was. And so one of the people that came to the second wedding was like, well, this person can toast, let this person do it. And the way he responded and said, no, this is my wedding. And no, I don't want anybody else to do it. My insides were like, oh.
Oh, Suzette, what have you done?
Exactly. Now I was actually the word that came was that S word, but I will not say it. But that was the first thing. It was like, oh, And I felt inside, oh my God, have I made the worst decision the second time? But I mean, we're at my mom's house, my dad sang, the people are there. And I just felt like, you know what? Even though I'm feeling this, we're married. And my son, we told our son that God had brought his family back together again. Now, ain't no way I'm going to hurt this child a second time. I'm just not going to break up his whole world a second time. So I stuck it out. And it was interesting because it was a slower walk this time down, but it was still the same walk down. You know, that person starts coming up with these reasons why he can't have sex with you, or reasons why he can't keep an erection, or reasons why it's like he makes your life crazy so that you are too busy, you are too stressed out to want to be intimate. You know, all these different things started slow walking again. Yes.
So you say a really interesting thing, that the real fight is not staying married, it's actually leaving a narcissist.
Yes, it is, because here's the thing. Depending on how long you stay in there, you are subtly disappearing the whole time. Because they're only trying to gain more real estate. They're making more room for them. And the more room they're making for them, and all the little subtle compromises you have to make just to be with them, you are disappearing a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. So it's very difficult. It's very difficult that you can just find the energy, find the energy, even once you leave them. It's
You're so depleted.
You're so depleted. It's like even after you leave them, it's just geography. They're still in your head. They're still in the decisions you make. They're still in everything that you do. Their voice, sometimes just their energy. And I think it's more energy, because sometimes you don't hear a voice per se, but that's almost this energy that makes you feel like, okay, well, I don't know if I can do this, or I don't know if I can do that, or that hesitation. It's just one of those things, because I mean, think about it, especially in my situation. I've lived in a closet. And you hear of people who have been in prison for a while, or have been cut off from who they are for a while. Even when you come out, you've got to find your way out of the closet that has been internalized. You've got to. So it's difficult.
Oh,
it's very difficult.
It's not an easy journey. And for anybody who's listening to this conversation, other conversations on the conference, yes, you can heal. Yes, you can have a healthy relationship. But is the journey from the broken, devastated you when you leave this narcissist to the new healthy you and easy one? No. It's jagged and got sharp edges, and some days it's pleasant and some days it's horrible, and but it can be done.
Yes, that it can. Now it's going to take some work. And I think that's the sticking point, because people, my experience with people is, especially when you come out of that, you don't want to work. Your brain is so tired. Your
Yeah.
emotions are so frayed. It's like, I just want to go somewhere and sleep, you know? Or I'm so, it's almost like, it's funny. What I thought about for me specifically, Susan, was at first I just wanted to go somewhere and lay down, unplug from the world, and just lay down. But just as sure as I'm a healthy woman, something kicks in. And it's funny because comparison wise, it's almost like a crack cocaine addiction. They say if you snort, at first you don't feel like you're addicted. Then about 10 days later, bam, you just, you get this craving for it that you cannot, it just comes out of nowhere. And for me, it was like in the beginning, I was like, just okay, I don't want to talk to a man, leave me alone, you know, lose my number, don't wink at me, don't offer to open the door, just leave me alone. But then after a while, all of that suppressed sexual tension just came out of nowhere. And I just literally, it was like I was so starved for intimacy, for touch, that honestly, it was as if I was addicted. Like all those years of feeling like I had to beg to be touched, which speaks to another narcissistic trait that I discovered with him. I can remember a time when I'm sitting on the edge of the bed and I'm talking to him about how miserable I am. And I'm like, even now, you're sitting there looking at me and I am crying and falling apart, and you won't even touch me. I said, why won't you just even just touch me? You don't even care. I'm falling apart and you're sitting cold and you're staring and you won't even touch me. I said, just touch me. Just touch me. It doesn't have to be sexual. Just touch me. I mean, I'm falling apart here. And he said to me, Suzette, I can't believe that you have allowed anybody, including me, to make you so powerless that you're begging to be touched. I mean, you should think more of yourself than that. You shouldn't let anybody reduce you to that. Yeah. And when that, and I mean, I was like heaving. I was so, and so it was like after I started thinking about some of the things that I was deprived of, I think just all that together, I became very hungry for affection, very hungry. Now, did I go out and just, have sex with random men and strangers? No, thank goodness I didn't do that. But I was very vulnerable. I was super duper vulnerable. And fortunately for me, it doesn't happen with everybody. That's why my recommendation is go get therapy first. I waited and got therapy later, but I say go get therapy first because it's going to kick in after a while, all that you've been through.
Mhm.
And so if you are anticipating it and you're already getting help, it makes it easier for you to make healthier decisions than when you're in the throes of anger and hurt, and you're wondering why you allowed yourself to be treated that way, and oh, I begged him to touch me, I begged this guy to touch me. I mean, I literally snotting in the bed begging, and that makes you feel like, God, how could I allow myself to be reduced to that? So it's better to do the therapy thing ahead of time. Fortunately, there were some men around that were generally nice men. They weren't all healed, but they were nice men. So even though I made some mistakes and got sexually involved with people that I wasn't supposed to, because they really weren't the right fit for me, I did not leave out of it more damaged. And I say this to those listening because here's the chance you take. The chance you take is, especially if you've gone through having been married to somebody that was gay, the chance you take with going into a sexual relationship, even with somebody who's heterosexual, it still might mean this person is emotionally unavailable. So while they may stimulate your body, the part of you that really wants to be seen and wants to matter still suffers. And I can remember praying really hard saying that, God, I don't know which of these three men that are kind of circling around me is going to be the man I sleep with. But please don't let it be a man that makes me feel bad about my sexuality. Because then it'll be like, okay, a gay man didn't want you, and now a straight man don't want you. So where do you go from here? You know, I said, I don't want to be doubly hurt. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so even in who we give our bodies to after we come out of something like that, that's why I say therapy, because you definitely don't want it to be somebody who's going to wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, on you, because you don't realize how vulnerable you are and what that says to an already fragile self-esteem.
Yeah, because coming out of these relationships, I think one of the biggest things that maybe we don't recognize, I sure as heck didn't recognize it, and it's an important message as we wrap up this conversation. When you come out, you are hurting, confused,
Yes.
vulnerable, angry, vengeful, raging, crying. You're the whole 9 yards. And you might seek bad self-soothing behavior. For me, it was drugs, rock and roll, bad boys, drinking. For some people, it's eating bad food, anorexia, binge dieting, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You have to give yourself space to heal.
Got to. You got to. And you know, Susan, another one that I found that's more subtle is sometimes when people come out of situations like this, especially, like I said, us women that, you know, we kind of got that little thing when we're running toward it. Sometimes our checkout is finding a new project.
Yes.
You know, we might not run for the drugs, we might not run for this, but we're running for that brass ring. And sometimes chasing your dream can be that thing that you're trying to, you know, that's your thing where you're avoiding dealing with your pain. You're running after your dream. You might start a company. You might, you know, do all these different things. You might even do service work. You might even, you know, go help in a third world country. And all those things are wonderful things. But if the reason you're doing it is because you're trying to prove to yourself that you're enough, then it's still the wrong thing for you.
That's
It's
correct.
still the wrong thing.
I know a lot of women who came out of, and I have spoken to them, they've come out of these relationships and they've immediately gone and pursued a career and become very powerful businesswomen, but they are bitter and angry and unsatisfied and still have not healed the wounds that came out of that relationship.
That's right. And it happens all the time. I run into women like that all the time because that was me. And you know, if it's ever been you, you can't fool a person that they've gone through the same thing. You can't. I don't care how sexy you make the story, and we can make it sexy.
Oh yeah.
But it still doesn't change that we understand. It's like, but you still got to heal that soft underbelly. You gotta do it. You gotta get you back, because we think that performance is going to somehow or another prove that we're worthy. It's going to fix what's broken, but it doesn't. Sometimes it even makes it worse, because
Yeah.
now you've accomplished all this stuff, and because you didn't heal anything, now you're up here, and the loneliness is worse, because now all this time has gone by, and we think that time heals all wounds. No, it doesn't. It's what you do with the time.
It's what you do at the time.
What you do with the
Absolutely
time.
spot on, because I know for me, and I didn't want to go there, But when I had my moment of reconciliation, when I had my moment of recognition that I was the common denominator in all these bad relationships, I recognized I had to go back to my childhood place and find out what that was. Did I want to? No. Did I
No.
have to? Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Did I
Yep.
have to deal with it? You betcha. Was it the best thing I ever did? Yes. But
Yes.
there were days, Suzette, where I would say, I'm not doing this. I'm not going back there. I'm not thinking about this. I'm not doing this. I'm not crying about this anymore.
Yeah. 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 It's hard. It's hard work. But just like you said, we have to ask ourselves if we're worth it.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I talk about, and it's part of the free gift, but one of the things that I talk about in the audio, Take Your Heart Back, was even though that person may have hurt you, what you've done since then, you cannot blame that on that person. If you did not do everything you could to heal your heart and to reclaim your personal power, you can't blame that other person for that. You can't blame that relationship 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 30 years ago, because it's your heart. And it's for you to take care of your heart. It was given to you for safekeeping. And I feel like that's the same thing when it comes to the whole thing about being enough. We have to, sometimes we might not feel like we're enough, but there's something about a fight. When we go to therapy, even though we don't feel like it, when we expose ourselves to something that uplifts us, even when we don't feel like it, we are slowly feeding our worth and our value.
Absolutely.
And it's just like taking medicine. When you first take it, you don't feel it. But the more you take it, the more you do what the doctor prescribed you to do, the better you start feeling. And it's going to feel like crap in the beginning. I mean, I'm not going to paint it as anything other than it's going to feel like crap. You're going to feel like, shoot, this is worse than it was being married to him, you know, or being in a relationship with him. But you're worth it.
Yeah. Keep going.
You're worth it. You're worth it. That's my, it's like you're worth it. And I would not trade where I am now. I'm almost 5 years in, Susan, with this husband. I'm almost 5 years in. And I'm telling you, I'm still smiling from my liver. That's how good it is being married to this man. And I pinch myself because it's against the backdrop of where I've come from. It's like I didn't even know I could manifest or heal to the point of attracting a man like this. But his love for me is so pure, and his capacity to allow me to be who I am without being intimidated, without feeling inferior, without his ego. It's beyond anything I've ever experienced in my life. And so I know if it could happen for me, the person that married a gay man twice, then you know it can happen for you.
And on that note, Suzette, that was perfect. Tell everyone about your free gift and how they can find you on the World Wide Web if they want to talk to you.
Yes, yes. My free gift is Take Your Heart Back. It's an audio, and it is really about what I was saying. That for many of us, you know, they say that I left my heart in San Francisco. Many of us have left our heart with the person that hurt us. And I'm saying, take your heart back. And so that audio, I'm giving that as a free gift.
I love it.
Yes. And you can find me at www.suzettesolutions.com. And of course, Susan's going to have that in the information.
Absolutely.
And my free gift, the link to my free gift as well. So, yeah.
This has been a great conversation, Suzette. I really appreciate your honesty, your openness, your truthfulness. Everybody who's listening, know that it is possible to get through this. It's going to feel like you're walking on through the fires of hell for the first little while, but you will open the door, come out on the other side and go, whew,
You
that
will.
was rough, but I made it.
Yes.
So
You will.
put the energy on you. You are enough and you're worth the journey. So thank you, Suzette. Thank you to everyone who's listening.
You.
Until next time, make it a great day. Bye for now.